Hello and welcome to the February 2024 Instructional Story Design Roundtable, where we are going to be discussing radically relatable characters. And to get started today, I want to share a short video with you because I am so stoked about what's coming in April. So many of you have read the book Instructional Story Design and have started putting it into practice. If you haven't yet, and you're here because you're interested in learning about instructional story design, welcome. I'm glad you're here. For those of you who are old hands at story design, we take this time twice a year to get together to dive deeply into one aspect of instructional story design. So I'd like to share a video with you that has me very excited because in April, the course, the Instructional Story Design Experience is launching. And it is a 6-week cohort that goes through every step in instructional story design. And you get the opportunity to put into practice the principles from the book with coaching along the way. So let me share a brief video that describes a little bit of what you will experience in the experience. Just a moment while I bring that video up. All right. Oh, wait, I did not share my sound. My goodness, I sometimes forget that. Okay. And honestly, that cheering at the end is exactly how I feel right now. And so does my designer, because we're in the final stretch. And we are so excited to release it in April. So if you are interested in checking out the instructional story design experience, I'm going to put the link in the chat and you can check it out. See that video as well as another video. It kind of gives an explanation of what you will experience at the experience. All right, let's dive into our topic for the day. And it's going to be a lot of what you will find about relatable characters is going to be in chapter 5 of the book. But the things that we're going to do today are a bit more hands-on. So I would like you to go to menti.com and I'm going to share with you just a moment the screen so that you can actually scan the code if you would like to do that. Just a moment. On. There you are. Okay, so you should see on your screen. Do you see 4 people, 4 characters on your screen? Okay, so to get to this Mentimeter, either go to menti.com and enter the code there, or you can use your phone and just scan the QR code and it'll take you straight to this presentation. So menti.com. Okay, cool. I see the thumbs up. You're in. You're in. Awesome. I'm going to be sending you to breakout groups. So I want you to have this up. If you are able to bring this up on a separate screen or just on your screen, that's fine. Or on your phone, you'll be able to reference this in the breakout room discussion. And the discussion is this. I'd like for you to take a look at this cast of characters. And in your group, I'd like for you to discuss whether or not you feel these characters that all appear in the same story to you feel relatable. And if so, why? If not, why not? Then we're going to come back into the main room and I'd like to hear your observations. So now that you have this on your own screen and you can reference this in your discussion, let me send you to breakout groups and we will return in about, take a couple minutes to introduce yourselves to one another, not a couple minutes, a few seconds to introduce yourselves to one another, and then begin the discussion about the characters.
Can you put the code for Menti in again? I didn't get that in.
I will actually just put it right in the chat.
Perfect.
So that you will have that. Okay. If somebody else, okay, here, yeah. There we go. Here is the link. If you click that link, it'll actually take you straight to the presentation. All right, guys, there are 26. So I'm gonna bring it into groups of, so 9, maybe 8 groups. All right. I will see you. Take about 6 minutes to discuss this with your group. And then we'll come back and share your observations. Okay, the rooms are open.
Friends,
Yes, Carolyn.
may I ask a question because our group was a bit confused? Relatable to what? Which story? So it's about the audience profile you sent us before for the download. Because if not, we said we need some more context, or we really discuss the exercise and not the characters.
Good. Spoken like a true instructional designer. I need more context.
Yes.
More information, please. I need to ask some questions. Totally understandable. So the majority of you felt not relatable. Some of you did feel like they were relatable. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss those reasons. And I promise, Carolyn, we will get to the context.
Yes.
I just wanted to hear your initial reaction. So for those of you who thought the characters were not relatable, let me hear why. Anybody?
Yeah, Amanda here. I guess I'll speak up. So I think they're relatable in the business friendly style, which, as you know, I really like that style. But I feel like they're lacking that relatable expression. So you as a designer, Ransky, you were trying to convey, hey, so and so was compliant or angry, but they weren't actually conveying those emotions. So demonstrating that. So that's what my group talked about. And
Okay.
also the puppy eyes, I mean, just kind of like threw me back a little bit. It just it's kind of unnerving, like the kind of dilated eyes. But anyway, I'll let other people talk.
Dilated eyes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So they weren't expressing maybe who they were. Okay, good. Thank you, Amanda. Anybody else?
I just felt like the eyes looked kind of glazed over. We talked about that, and like the angry guy, he doesn't have an angry like the eyebrow expression and things like that, where it makes him actually look angry. He looks pretty placid, actually.
Okay. Okay, good. So again, names not matching or personalities or state of mood or whatever isn't matching their expression. Anybody else? What about those of you who thought they were relatable? Why did you think they were relatable?
So I was in a group with Jessica and Shannon. We like what we were looking at to be relatable was different, right? The names were relatable to us. Those were relatable as actual office characters or even members of your family. But we agreed with needed more body language, maybe some other things. We thought Patty Perturb's eyes looked crazy. But that was like the first thing we talked about was the eyes. And like you could see a little bit of the body language and Andy's eyebrows and things like that, but everything needed to be a bit more expressive. But when we said relatable, we were really looking at the names and the underlying goal of the character.
Okay. Thank you, Alana. Anybody else?
Hi, Rance. This is Wenli, and I'm in the group with Fred and Sabrina. We think we were actually adding the context to that. We were thinking if they work in the same company or they work on the same project, they can be relatable.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Winley. Good. All right, let me share this picture again. And I'd like to make some observations. Here we have, okay, here's our cast of characters. Let me ask you another question. Do you feel like these characters seem believable? Do they seem believable, like real people? And you don't have
Yes,
to.
I
Go
definitely
ahead.
think they are.
You do
I think
think
so.
Because because in every company you're going to get either all or one of them that's going to be working in a group of some sort, doing something or in a team, and you're going to get all those characters.
okay, good. Yeah, you're gonna have people who are, you know, pretty happy-go-lucky people or perturbed people or people who just dominate the conversation. You know, you're gonna have those types of folks. Sure.
I think they're pretty good like caricatures of people, right? So maybe Kenny's not always or Patty's not always perturbed, but it's very common for us to see her that way. So we can relate to these sort of moments where people are maybe a little bit heightened.
Yeah, Julie, I love that you said that. So they seem more like caricatures than real people, right? They seem more like stereotypes, maybe. Yeah, good. Molly says, looks like Monday morning expression, not wanting to go to work. I think Andy is so much stressed and looks angry to work for extra hours. Yeah. Janiki, it's so nice to see you. I'm so glad you came. Let's just look at their names. Kenny, Patty, Tammy, Andy. Now, these are real names and people do have them. Some of you might have this name. But when you put, and I've been on a team actually where an inordinate amount of our team members had names ending in Y. And it was kind of funny to us. So when you're putting a cast of characters together, Kenny, Patty, Tammy, Andy somehow doesn't sound like a real group of people, right? They sound a little bit caricature. So for those of you who felt that this group didn't seem particularly believable, particularly relatable, I'd like to share with you just a brief overview of the story design model, and then we're going to come back to these characters and figure out where do these characters actually come from for our stories. I'm going to post the handouts that we're going to be using for the last half of our time together in the chat if you haven't downloaded them yet. But let me review the story design model with you. For those of you, this will be just a review. For those of you who are brand new to it, this will be new information. So let's look at the story design model. If you have a piece of paper, you can write story at the top and action at the bottom. That's a good comment, Katerina. It might be difficult to distinguish the learners, the characters by name when they sound so similar. So our goal for the story for training is to connect to the action that we want to take as a result of training. The story has to be concretely connected to the action that we want people to take. So what are the elements that make a story a story? What makes stories, what are those elements, those key elements that make stories a story? Characters, yes, Alana.
Definition of change.
Yes, Rude. Yes, absolutely. And then, Emer, you're on it. Conflict and relatable characters, right? That's what we're here to talk about today, relatable characters. Empathy, yeah, Julie, stories have a way of drawing us in so that we do have empathy for the characters in that story. Conflict, relatable characters, conflict, strong conflict, Katerina, yes. Motivation, setting, the scene, the introduction, yes, Jill. Them, background info, oh, a theme. Gotcha, Sabrina. Resolution, yeah, resolution. There's something particularly distinct about stories for training concerning resolution, which we'll get to in just a moment. Jill, a climax. Yeah, you guys know what stories are because you speak in the language of stories every day. The two essential elements of a story, and you guys have already pointed this out, for a story for training is relatable characters and strong conflict. Relatable characters plus strong conflict. Of course, I use the word relatable because, as you have pointed out, our viewing audience for the story needs to have some empathy for that character. They need to relate to that character. And I use the word conflict, strong conflict, because I want to remind us all of us, especially us instructional designers who like to present a flawless, seamless experience for everyone, that we have to have conflict in the story. Conflict must be present and it needs to be as strong as possible. Okay, and our last roundtable, we talked about the critical role of conflict, which you can go and watch that recording on the roundtable page. So yes, relatable characters in strong conflict. And what happens when you're viewing a story that has relatable characters in strong conflict? How would you describe the feeling that you have? Yes. 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 Oh my gosh. Okay. You guys are much more advanced than any other group I've had at these roundtables. It produces a desire for resolution, a desire for resolution. We want these characters to succeed because we care about them. They're relatable. And so once the story for training has sparked that desire for resolution, the story has done its work. But there's still a gap here that needs to be filled. And that gap is filled with instruction. Instruction that's based on the story. So relatable characters plus strong conflict produces a desire for resolution, which opens up the learner to receive instruction and then enables them to take action. That's the model. Today, our focus is right here. Relatable characters. Relatable characters. Where do these characters come from? Where does, oh, Katarina, this is new. I thought training. Yeah, so training and instruction in my mind are synonymous. Yes, Emer, they must relate to the learner in some way. So how do we do that? I mean, do we just create Tammy talks a lot and, you know, Kenny compliant and we're good to go? How do we figure out where these relatable characters come from? Open the handout labeled audience profile. If you have it printed out, that's fine. Or you can have it up on your screen. It looks like this. And I'd like to read to you and maybe have some of you read as well this profile, because this profile is of a learning audience that a story designed course is going to be created for. And the title of the course for this learning audience is Facilitate Collaboration Like a Boss. Kind of fun. So the people who are going to be taking this course are potential facilitators of, you know, collaborative problem solving sessions. The personal information that we know about them here on the handout is that they are professionals and leaders within a large corporation. They value excellent client service. They value innovation, but are struggling to collaborate effectively. So you're starting to form a picture in your mind of who this learning audience is. Would somebody be willing to read out loud the paragraph under circumstances at work?
I will.
Thank you.
Circumstances. The company is asking people to get together from different departments to solve particularly difficult problems, but the meetings are usually dominated by 2 or 3 people while the others remain quiet. No one is particularly skilled at facilitating these collaborations. Employees are frustrated by the lack of process in these kinds of meetings, which has had a negative impact on recent attempts at collaborating. Employees dread being assigned to a collaboration group. They also feel pressured to produce ideas that will make a difference, but it's stressful because they aren't sure about how to quantify the success of their collaborative efforts. The company is experiencing high turnover, which has everyone on edge.
Thank you, Andrea. Voiceover, yeah. So when Andrea was reading through that, could you feel kind of what this audience is going through? Could you picture in your mind, like, have you ever been a part of one of these meetings?
Yes.
I think that probably all of us have actually been in the meeting with these people. So we're beginning then to relate a little bit to our own learning audience, getting to know them as people. Their fears. They're missing out on market share because of lack of innovation. That's what they fear. They fear missing out on market share. And they also fear a continuation of high turnover. Genuine fears. Would somebody be willing to read the paragraph under training benefits?
I can go ahead and take that.
Thank you.
Collaboration is a process that can be mastered. Facilitators who complete the training will be well equipped to approach collaboration with a renewed sense of confidence. Collaborative teams will be invigorated to offer their ideas in a safe environment. They focus on listening to employees should help slow turnover. The company will have solid ideas to act upon that should yield higher market share.
Thank you, Alana. So already we're seeing how this training will benefit the learning audience personally, and how it will benefit the teams, and how it will benefit the company. But often the personal part is overlooked. So how will this training benefit this learning audience personally? So how many of you create an audience profile of some sort? If you're tasked with training a new audience, how many of you actually create some sort of audience profile before launching into design?
You have to, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't, start with these 5 things. Find out something personal about them that you might find, like the demographics there, the more transactional stuff. But dig a little deeper. What do they value? What's going on at work right now? How are they reacting to their circumstances? What are they afraid of? And how will training benefit them? So start with those 5 things. And if you have these 5 things, then you can be pretty assured that you know your audience fairly well. Okay, audience profile. So we're going to use this audience profile. Now we're starting to feel what our audience feels, understand where they're coming from. Open the second worksheet. It looks like this. There are 5 guideposts that help us create a character description. And so what I'd like for you to do in this second breakout is to spend 5 minutes going through. And what I'd like for you to do first is, since this training is about facilitating collaborative learning, facilitating collaborative problem solving, this first one here, conflict. Which action from the action list are they in conflict with? And so you're going to imagine that the action that we're training them to do is to facilitate collaborative problem solving. So you're going to imagine the character for your story is in conflict with that, is in conflict with facilitating collaborative problem solving. They're not doing it well. All right. And then some personal information about your character, what your character values, what their character's current circumstances are, what your character fears. This is all sounding very familiar. It should, because it's exactly what we've collected about your audience. And so who your audience is now is going to be translated into a very specific character that represents them, that they will be like, yeah, I know exactly where that person is. I know, I've been there before. So just spend a little bit of time with one another, just mapping out those 5 guideposts based on the audience profile that you have. Then give them a name. And if you want to talk about physical descriptions, that's fine. That's less important right now. So I'll give you another, let's say, another 7 minutes. We'll come back at the end of the 7 minutes and we'll share our characters with one another. Okay? You understand? So use the audience profile to base your character off of and create a unique individual that this audience will be able to relate to, who's struggling to facilitate collaboration. All right. Let's begin. And the rooms are open. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. All right. You were probably deep into conversation and didn't want to leave your groups, but let's just hear from a few of the groups. Tell me about your character. You can also, type a description of your character in the chat if you'd like to do that. Let's hear. Would somebody be willing to volunteer who their character is?
Ironically,
start.
this is the beginning part. Oh, go ahead.
Alana, why don't you start and then we'll go to Katarina.
I was going to say, ironically, the beginning part of our character story is that he asks a question and there's just absolute dead silence in the room. So I thought it was a good opportunity to share ours. We just said that we have him as like a department head, very introverted, more data-driven than relationship, a leader of a technical team, since that's typically that kind of persona. Values engagement, innovation, and collaboration. And the current circumstances, which is as far as we got, was that he's leading a meeting with members of his team, but there's dead silence when the first question is asked. Everyone's on their laptops, no communication, and it seems like no one is listening.
Nice. Wow. This sounds like a real person. Nice. Katarina.
Nearly similar, but yeah. So also a person who is shy, too afraid to talk openly because of the two dominant guys. Yeah, also values innovation. Yeah, current circumstances, because they're from different departments and maybe no one feels responsible because they're in a big group. And yeah, fears pressure to produce good ideas.
Yeah. Nice. Well, did you guys come up with a name?
No, not enough time.
Andrea, we came up with Ryan, who is a project manager who is quiet, unsure how to proceed, and is not confident in his skills. It's important for him to do the right thing, but his conflict is feeling unsure how to take the lead. Beautifully said. Molly, someone who knows the value of communication, but doesn't have the skill to produce results. All of these character descriptions are so much deeper than Andy Angry. They sound like very relatable, real people. And so when you take just a moment to look at your learning audience, if you know who they are, know what they're struggling with, know what their current circumstances are, you can easily transfer some of those over to your character. They don't have to be a carbon copy of your audience. And when you're creating a cast of characters, you're going to need to have we'll talk about a cast in just a moment. You're going to need to have multiple personalities with, some conflicting values, maybe even. We have Carrie, conductor Carrie, wants to indicate visually faster, slower, your turn now, isn't doing this, as doesn't have an assigned role to do this. Nice, Rube. Yep. So even though, it's more of a stereotypical name, the description of the character is not. Awesome. Good. Anybody else want to share their character? Bye, Phil. Thanks for joining us a little bit. All right, let me share with you kind of a new cast of characters. Take a look at these guys and just comment on this cast of characters in contrast to the characters that we saw at the very beginning of this session together. What kind of comments do you have?
Yeah, you can see their emotion a lot more than the previous characters.
Yes, you can see their emotions. Nice. Katerina, the names are much nicer to distinguish them from one another. Julie, more variety in the names, stronger expressions. You don't need their descriptor. Alana, we're showing rather than telling. And so the cardinal rule in story design is if you find yourself telling a lot about what that character is thinking or what that character is feeling, it's an indication that you are not showing. And showing is so much more powerful than telling. So thank you for pointing that out, Alana. There's greater diversity, Emer, yep. And I like that you put that because when it comes to a cast of characters, variety. Variety is the name of the game. And you will notice that there's even variety in the syllables of the names. You have a 2-syllable name, you have 2 3-syllable names, you have a 1-syllable name. So when you hear, Kenny, Patty, Tammy, Andy, they're all 2 syllables, they all end in E, as opposed to Harold, Felicia, Jill, and Gregory. Somehow, the second cast of characters seems a lot more real. Like, this is an actual team. Good. More age difference, yeah. They look like a motley group, like the description. I can imagine the meeting going rogue. You can imagine, yeah. So already we see maybe some conflicting personalities. That too, yeah. Different personalities in your characters are going to make that story so much more dynamic. Nice. Eyes are more expressive. Jill looks like she is so much confident. Yeah, I agree. Emer, there's body language. Their body language is more expressive. Katerina, the characters were previously pre-installed Vyond characters. So there's a tool called Vyond that I use a lot to create videos. And these were created in that tool. And so, yeah, they looked more generic, right? So if we look at the characters here, I mean, goodness gracious, give these people some clothing advice, right? Some fashion advice. These 2 guys have the exact same hairstyle. Yeah.
We did call out Tammy for wearing a hoodie to work.
A hoodie that does not match her skirt. The clothing is now more personalized. Yeah, that's a good point, Katerina. All the characters seem much more personalized, much more real. Decisions were made in the design of these characters. Good. Julie, I'm reading the Design for How People Learn, an excellent book by Julie Dirksen right now. And a lot of what we are learning here echoes what she says, show, don't tell a compelling and relatable story. So yeah, Julie, I actually quote Julie in my book because she is a big supporter of storytelling. Gadir, feels like I have entered a real workplace. I can clearly see the characteristics of these people. Yeah, so I encourage you, when you are creating your character descriptions, create real people, real people that your audience can relate to. Veer away from stereotypes, veer away from caricatures, and create real, radically relatable characters. Cool. All right, what kind of observations do you guys have from this session together? What takeaways do you have? Real quick. Andrea? Putting you on the spot. What's your takeaway from this session?
Take what you know what I was thinking of when we were talking about all of this, that it's very similar to like UX design on a web page. So hear me out here, where I always hate it whenever a web page will say, click here, do this. It should be totally intuitive, just like your characters should be relatable and intuitive, that you just know that she's perturbed and that her body language is saying, I'm irritated by everything. But you don't have to say it. You don't have to give her the name, like
Yes.
perturbed, you know? So, I mean, that's my takeaway from it, that, it has to involve the empathy, all of the background.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's believable. As a marketer, I can believe, if you tell me that somebody's perturbed, I'm more likely to be like, okay, I believe you. But I don't like that. Like, show me, tell me the story, and
Yes.
that answers your question.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And really, storytelling, if you can tell a good story, that's the ultimate test of UX. Like, have you done your UX? Have you done your research to know who your audience is? Wonderful. I love that. Julie says, avoid the stereotype caricature and make your characters real and relatable. Super helpful as I'm about to begin a new storyboard. Awesome. Show, don't tell. Yes. Alicia, consciously decide to show characters' expressions and scenario images rather than describe it verbally. Yes. Katarina, I am motivated to read your book again. Yay. Glad to hear that. I would like for you guys to join me again next time, and here is a link to sign up for August's roundtable. Anybody have suggestions about what you want to focus in on for that session? If you have suggestions, there is a survey in the roundtable course, and I would love to hear your ideas for what you'd like us to cover. Also, here is a link to our upcoming workshops, and including the experience that I showed a video of at the beginning of. And then lastly, I am linked in with most of you guys, but if you are not linked in with me, I would love to stay in touch with you. I like staying in touch with story designers. Molly, how to introduce strong conflict into a story. Emer, thank you for coming. Alicia, creating good distractors, wrong answer choices in scenarios. Okay, cool. Alana, dig deeper into my audience profiles before starting. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Get to know those learners as people who have feelings. Awesome, guys. Well, it's been wonderful hanging out with you. I look forward to seeing you at future workshops and such, and at the next roundtable in August. Have a wonderful rest of your day, your evening, your night, and I will see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.